Hi, everyone, and welcome to TeachTechPlay. I'm Eleni Kyritsis, and I am delighted today to have a longtime friend and a little OG of TeachTechPlay who was around way back when we first launched for both online shows. I think we had you on a number of times, and then you were also part of our first conference, which was super exciting. So, welcome, Bec. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Eleni, and thanks for having me back. It feels like a lifetime ago talking about all of those old episodes of Teach Tech Play and the conference. It just feels like a distant memory. Life is so different now.
I know you and I first technically kind of met online on Twitter back in the day, or as we call it,
Yep.
X these days. And I remember seeing,
All
for sure.
episodes we watch it.
Yeah, I remember you were doing things with I think it was Evernote. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. That was like the early days.
Yeah. And I think I was a graduate, and it was when I first jumped online. I was like, oh my gosh, she's amazing what she's doing. And then we met at some event. I think it would have been a Teach Meet. And then we've sort of been in and out over the years, and I've seen you grow. And now tell us what you are doing.
Well, now, so what we're thinking maybe 11 years later? Has it been that long? No,
Oh,
I don't
I've
know.
been teaching longer than that. I think it's 15 now. It makes us feel really old.
That many years later, I'm the principal of Jerry Primary School. It is a brand new school that opened this year out in Wollert, which is in the northern suburbs of Melbourne, in a very diverse, multicultural growth suburb. So it's wonderful out there, having the best time. I like to call it glorious chaos because uh, for anybody watching that has opened a new school or been part of a new school in the first year, where, a few months in, 8 months in, um, it has been a wild ride, but one that I'm absolutely loving and really enjoying working alongside my amazing team, and doing something that I think is pretty special in being able to build a new school from the ground up.
Yeah, and it's absolutely amazing. And I know there are some phenomenal growth pockets here in Melbourne in particular where there are schools popping up. Like, another friend of mine is opening another new school out that way next year, and I've been chatting to her as well. And it's phenomenal, but this isn't your first principalship.
No, correct. This is my second principalship. Before that, I was principal at Spenceley Street Primary School, which completely different community in the inner Melbourne suburbs, little city school in Clifton Hill. So completely different. I was there for nearly 5 years, and I started in October 2019. So, just that perfect time for COVID as a first time principal. So it was also a wild ride, but a really great one. And, because of what happened with COVID, it was a very, very fast learning curve.
Yeah, and I can imagine I had a baby during COVID, so that was also you became principal.
Probably also a big learning curve.
Yeah, so we both went through giant learning curves in that year of 2020, which we all want to put behind us. But I know for those of you who have been watching the last few episodes, I stepped up as a head of junior school for the first sort of 6 months of this year. And I take my hat off to you. I am more than happy stepping back into my deputy role. What made you, because I know you sort of took those leadership steps along the way, similar to what I did, and, you know, then took that leap to principal. Did you always see yourself becoming a principal? What drove you in that direction?
No, not at all. I actually never ever thought I'd leave the classroom. Um, and then quite, I don't know, naively, I suppose back then, said I'll only ever become a leader if it's like a technology role, ed tech role. Um, and then, fortunately at the time I had a really great principal that was quite against that. He believed in depth and breadth and building your leadership experience so that you don't get pigeonholed and that you have a lot more, I suppose, bag of tricks, a repertoire of things that you can lead across a school. So I'm very grateful for that now. But at the time, I was like, oh, I just really want to take leader role. But anyway, it all worked out. I suppose I had to grow really fast when I first moved to Melbourne. I got a job in a brand new school. So this isn't my first rodeo in a brand new school. This is my second, but at the first time I was a classroom teacher. And because that school grew so rapidly, I had to grow with it. So every year we were inducting new staff, and I naturally became a leader because of that, coaching and mentoring new staff members into the school. And then yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there. I became a leading teacher, not of a technology alone role. I had a very big chunk of my role was teaching and learning, coaching and mentoring. And then I became an assistant principal there. And then from that went off and did some acting prin roles and stuff. I think the thing that I love the most about it, and the bit that keeps me going, and probably the thing that I love the most about a new school especially, is um, the strategy, the thinking, the solving those big puzzles, um, and then kind of having some really big different ideas and putting the team together and bringing them to life, and watching it all happen. It's a pretty amazing spot to be in.
Yeah. And I think, my career journey as well, and sort of that technology role that you do get pigeonholed, I think, when you are in this online space a bit, that you're the technology expert. But something I always was really passionate about was technology shouldn't be seen as a separate. Realistically, it drives the learning and it should be seamless in the learning that takes place. But I love what you said there about how being in a new school, you sort of get to shape it and everything. I'm in a school that celebrated its 100 years last year, and any kind of change sometimes, like, but we've always done it this way, and but that's how it's been since the school first opened. So you have that side as well in a school that's been around for 100 years, that history is so tight knit that you can't also change certain things, because when their grandmas were at the school, they did this. So they want their grandchildren, great grandchildren to also do it. So I really like that you've stepped outside of that comfort zone, taken the leap and doing it, because not many of us can take that leap. And opening not only a new school in a growth pocket, and it's growing substantially. I know that that area is just booming, and I'm sure you've had a number of new teachers this year, and I'm sure you're employing a whole lot more for next year, and it will keep growing. But the thing that really inspired me was also last year that you went to Finland and Sweden and
Correct.
got to go and see the schools out there, because I've been to Sweden for an event I was running with Google over there, which was amazing fun, but didn't really get to see too many schools. Got to talk to amazing educators, but I was only there for a weekend. So, and yes, I did fly all the way to Europe for a weekend. But anyway, that's what happens with it, as you do. But um, tell me about the schools, because I was also really excited to speak to you about the school setup, because I just saw the post you posted on LinkedIn the other day, and reading that really provoked my thinking as well. So share a little bit about that trip and what sparked all of that and what you're trying to do now.
Yeah, sure. So I think the biggest reason I wanted to go over there was because, we hear all the time about how they're amazing systems and Finland this and PISA scores this and whatever. I'm like, I wonder what they do over there that actually makes a difference. I wasn't really, my goal wasn't to go over there and go, oh, they've got all these PISA results, whatever. I think some of them are declining now. Anyway, it wasn't about that for me. It wasn't about the academics or the teaching and learning. It was more about what have these systems got in place that have endured over many years that I can learn from when building my new school and putting things in place. And a good friend of mine, actually, she works for School Ed Consulting, Lou Bo. You would know Lou from back in the day as well.
Yeah.
She organized the conference, the tour, and invited me along, which was amazing. And so I got to go to 4 different schools across the week and a bit that we were there, and then had other meetings with very, well-known educators and leaders, principal leaders as well. I think, a little bit what I wrote about in the article for me, and especially with establishing a new school from the ground up, was what are those schools doing differently to support students holistically? So what are the wraparound supports that we can do that is happening over there. And the biggest things that I saw were the importance placed on well-being. And don't get me wrong, I think there's so many Aussie schools that do that well. It wasn't about comparing us to them. But I feel like we have to work really hard at it here because it's not the norm, I suppose. Well, maybe that's the wrong words, but I don't think we're resourced effectively, especially in government schools, to do that well as what we could. The waiting lists are through the roof, and if a system, not just a school system, but a government system was designed differently, how could that look? So some of the things I saw over there were, right from maternal health to schooling, there's continuity of care.
Yeah.
Amazing. Like, imagine kids not falling through the cracks for, a myriad of health issues or whatever it might be. Anyway, I can't do that at my school, but I can try and put a few things in place to support that more holistic well-being, and really having strong welfare teams, well-being teams. This year alone, I only have 110 kids at the moment. It's bliss until we grow. That'll double probably next year and then double the year after that.
Is it prep to 6 at the moment, or are you just...
Yeah, prep to 6.
Yeah. Amazing.
But this year alone, I've got more support staff than I do teaching staff. So we have 6 kin groups, we call them. So they're our home groups. And I have then myself and Toby, who's my assistant principal. So there's 8. And then the rest are either inclusion and support staff, one admin, a disability inclusion coordinator, and a youth support and engagement mentor. So we've invested significantly in staffing around wellbeing. Oh, and a chef. That would be my 20th staff member. So one of the other things I saw in Scandinavia was their universal access to school meals. So every child is fed a hot lunch. And we're actually launching our school meals program on the 1st of September. So we're about 2 and a bit weeks away, which is very, very exciting.
Well, I think when this episode airs, it will probably be around that time, which is really cool because that is amazing. And I know that growth pocket, obviously very different socioeconomic dynamics to where I am. So our well-being is completely different to what your well-being, also being an independent school to a public school. And I know that there's also those big changes in both the sectors here in Australia for anyone joining us from overseas, which I'm sure is also a global thing. But it really blows your mind sometimes that, every school system has its pros, has its cons, has things that we like, things that we don't like, but it's about seeing the whole picture. And I think what you said, you weren't going to see what it was, but actually just to visualize and see what could I bring back to help shape the school that I'm creating. And, when I read that post that you posted, it just was sort of like, yeah, so many kids today, and even at an independent school, we also have kids who arrive at school with no breakfast and their lunches are not nutritious. And you just think, what is happening to our kids? How are they expected to learn and focus throughout the day without their bellies full and something to keep them going? And it's a problem globally, I think, because even when I was in America last year for ISTE, talking to so many of the teachers there, food is a critical part. We know as students and children develop, they need the nutrients to grow and learn. And we try to teach it, but if we're not, through our health curriculum and teaching about nutrition and everything, if we're not actually visually making it available to them, they're not going to know as well. And I don't know about your school, but sometimes I feel like we're also educating parents along the way, which I imagine you've probably got a lot. And to hear the amazing support network you've got set up is phenomenal, because that's an area that I think that schools always do lack. And, anyone who's in a Australian school, Victorian school, just doing your NCCD data collection, fun times. We all love that. I'm sure you've just gone through that too.
Yep.
When you're looking at it and the support, like even we've got in place according to what our data says, it doesn't add up. And it's like, but it also can't add up because you also want to give that care and that support to the students that they need, that sometimes you don't have a official diagnosed condition, because some parents also don't want that and they are not ready for that. So I think, having that whole school approach of us all working together is really, really amazing. And hats off to you because as I said, I tried it for 6 months and I'm like, no, I really like going back. And that's something that everyone's always said to me as well. All amazing teachers sometimes step out of the classroom. And as you said, you always imagine going in the classroom. And even today I was at work and something happened, like a normal day, which I'm sure you go through and you're like, oh, you know what? Maybe next year I'll just go back in the classroom. I can close my door and just have fun because, oh, do you miss that?
Oh, absolutely. I taught reading today and got humbled by a class of prep. So all good. Like that happens. But it was the funnest hour of my day, even though it was tough. um, they're
Hey,
great.
I taught preps as well today, and we were doing push and pull and making little balancing things. And yeah, that was also a challenge. Did have an idea to make stress balls with flour, and then I rethought that idea. I thought, no, I don't think I want to attempt that one just yet.
I love it. No, look, with the food and health and well-being stuff, it's not just about physical health, it's about the mental health as well. And also just the lovely idea of it doesn't matter where you're from in the world. Um, there is something that food does for everybody in every culture, and that is bring people together. So it's about the health, the well-being, all of that, but also coming together as a community, and enjoying a meal together as a school. And hopefully we can get it to that point where it is a calm and beautiful space where children look forward to coming to every day. And it could be the highlight of many kids' day at school.
Yeah. And I think, that coming together of cultures, we've always had at my house, ever since I was little, we always sat around the dinner table. And now with my own family, that's a one thing. Every night I make sure I'm home for dinner time. And I think that's really important. And for some students, that's not a possibility. So having that at school, creating that community is absolutely bliss. So hats off again to you. What would you say would be probably your biggest challenge you faced this year?
This year. Four.
I'm sure there's many. I've had a few too.
Um, I think it's complex starting a school when you're getting children from all different schools and bringing them together as one. That's probably been the hardest thing because they're all coming with the way that their old school ran and the expectations from other places, which are most of the time of what I've learned this year very different to mine. And the way that I manage certain situations, particularly around student behavior and well-being, is very different to a lot of what our children are used to and what our families are used to. So I think that's been the biggest challenge. It's been a real education piece for our staff to understand really deeply what trauma-informed restorative practice means and not just at a surface level. It's been an education piece for our parents. So when we're talking to parents about consequences for behavior and what that looks like, suspensions are a last resort for us, as they should be in any school. But obviously, we talk a lot about that and where they fit and why they fit and when they're used. Um, and I think the other thing would be not having ease of access to external supports when we need it, because we do have many children, as so many schools today have an increasing amount of children that need additional supports that we're unable to provide, whether that be getting a pediatrician appointment or seeing a speech pathologist and things like that. At this point in time, I don't have access to those services. I can't provide them. And we live in a growth community that, it's not easy to get into things out there. So,
And that's not even a problem just for that area. Like I'm in the inner city and some of the waits to get to pediatricians, speeches, OTs, like we're in a different situation where we have a lot that come in, but I think we've got about 5 different external providers coming in and offering services at our school that the parents pay for. But some of the wait lists are up to a year at some of these places for students to even get in to see a pediatrician, to even get the support. And even the wait time, they've got to be on support in a school before then they'll do the particular assessment. And it's like, but, you know, I also feel there's lots of hurdles. So once you do get to one, there's all these other things, and you're like, okay, so now we've got to wait another 6 months of us doing intervention in the school, which we've already been doing, but now they want us to target another thing. And, I think that it does make it hard. And for a lot of families, it's a cost as well, which is expensive no matter what demographic or where you are. It's expensive. And unfortunately, there are more and more students that are being diagnosed and schools that need that support. And it's, it's, it's sad that schools don't have those support networks in place. A friend of mine is a speech pathologist and she works in a number of government schools, but she said that she's in a team of 5 and they go between 7 different schools. And she's like, I'm at each school half a day and there's about 20 kids at each school. She's like, I don't even have time to go to the toilet while I'm there. And what real impact am I having? Not much, because it's just not feasible and the money's not there. So I hear the struggle. And I think in these growth pockets in particular, the houses are booming, the growth is happening, and what support are being put for you is really important. In regards to educators today who want to make that next step, who think, you know what, I want to take on and open a new school or be a principal. I don't know why you do it. That's not me. I'm letting you know. What advice would you have for them?
Do it. It's fun. Like, I talk a lot, the word I've been using lately or the phrase is glorious chaos. It is hard. I work long hours, but what principal doesn't? It is.
Sorry, what teacher doesn't work long hours?
Well, exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, it's tough, but it's so much fun. I've built this beautiful team. I really worked hard last year to recruit for culture
Mhm.
because I thought if I get the culture right, everything else will come. And if the culture is good, Toby, my AP, and I, we can work on the rest with a great group of people who get it and who want to, take a risk and a chance on us doing things a little bit different. So if I got the people right, then we could go for it. And that's exactly what we've done this year. And, does it work every day? No, absolutely not. Like my reading session with the preps today. But it was a great discussion with the teachers about what's working, what's not working, what do we need to change, what do we want to refine. We're having those conversations all the time because I've recruited this amazing team who are so willing to just jump in and have a go. So that would be my advice. Just do it. Just take the leap. If it doesn't work, I've got so many friends that have gone out to be leaders and gone, I don't think that that's for me, and have gone back to the classroom and are absolutely loving life. I don't think that there should be any shame in that. And I think that there is a little bit of like tall poppy kind of culture in Australia where that is looked down upon. And I think that we should just get rid of that idea. Like, you be a teacher, you be a leader, be both. You do you, enjoy it, love your work. If you don't love your work, maybe think about doing something different. But like you can't be a teacher or a principal or a leader in a school and not love it. Because imagine going to work like that every day. It would be awful.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's been a common theme through every episode I've recorded so far for TeachTechPlay is that joy. You need to find that spark that brings you joy. We're not in education because we hate our job, because we know the dropout rate in this profession is super high and you've got to love what you do. And at the end of the day, it is those moments where you have a disaster lesson with the preps and you sit there and you think, this was just horrible, but you learn and you have a good laugh about it with your colleagues and you move on and you think of ways to improve. And I think for you, and from what I'm hearing, is having that freedom to also shape a school as you believe and having that freedom. Sometimes also being that middle leader and that person who sits under is you always sort of wonder, why don't they do this or why don't they do that? And, go and do it. You've said it, you're living it, you're breathing it. I think it's really, really brave of you and amazing to see what you've done. I admire everything you do every day because it's not an easy gig. The hours are crazy, but it's also one of the most rewarding careers. I didn't go into teaching, which I know you're very similar to me. We want to help people. We want to help those students. And by the sounds of what you're doing at your school, that's the whole ethos around what your school culture and everything you're trying to develop, which is absolutely amazing. What do you think is next for you, Bec? Because you just continue to grow and move.
Um, or I think I need to stick this one out a little bit.
Well, yes, you're only
You're
year one.
only 8 months in. No, I think this will sustain me for a while because it will be different as we grow. That's what I really loved about my old school, Aiken Creek, because every year when we got new staff, new kids, it was a different school. Like it was just, it kept you on your toes all the time. And I think this school will be similar.
What other capacity, like what's the end? When will you be full, or is there no link?
Yeah, our built capacity of buildings is 525 students, but if you add portables to that, maybe around 700-ish, depending on when they cap it, and how quick we grow. So, doubling next year. We'll see what happens the year after. Apart from that, I used to be the person that had the 10-year plan, the 5-year plan, but then I always achieved those plans ahead of schedule. So now I've just stopped making plans and just go with the flow, see what happens. I'm open to anything, you know, whatever, like bring it. Let's see what happens.
I hear you. I think sometimes the plan is not a plan because you also have that disappointment and opportunities come up in education that you just don't know what's going to happen. So I think that's really important as well to just sort of go try something. It's okay if you don't like it. You can go back and do what you love.
Whatever it will be, whatever it may be in the future, 5, 10 years time, it will be something to do with public education. That is the reason I do my job.
Yeah. And I take my hat off to you because I know it is a tough area of public education, particularly in some of those growth areas of the dynamics of different family cultures and the growth of the properties and the communities being developed out there. So I take my hat
It's
off.
the hardest part, but my parents, my families are my favorite part. They are the most beautiful. We're just in this little love bubble of 110 children and families and great school culture that it's a pretty nice little bubble to be in. So I'm hoping we can continue that and make it last.
I love that. And I love that you said the families because families used to be my biggest scary point. And when I stepped up in that head role, and they just they are, but they just want conversation. They just want to be heard. And sometimes they don't know. And I think also being a parent now myself, I'm also a teacher and I thought it would get easier when she started school. And it really hasn't. I'm like, it's hard work and you need support. And I think I've got a better understanding as I have grown as an educator as well of what parents also, a lot of the time, they just need reassurance. They need that help, that support. And they're the ones that help make our job easier as well. It's got to be a team effort. So really well done. I can't wait to see what you continue to achieve, Bec, because you're always doing the unimaginable. And every time I see what you do, I'm like, goodness, how does she do it? But hats off to you. I'm so glad we got to catch up and chat today. So everyone can reach out to Bec. I'm sure we will probably have you on again at some stage. And, I know Ewan's already like, we got to do something again. I'm like, yes, Ewan just said, I'm just launched this. But I'm sure you'll be part of that too, because I know you've loved seeing him when he's been out as well. And from way back in the day, but such a pleasure to have you here tonight and to chat everything education, hear about your journey. And congratulations again on opening a brand new school. And I can't wait to see the growth and what you achieve out there. So well done.
Thanks, Eleni. Thanks for having me back. It was a pleasure.
No problem.